Everybody, welcome back. So, this is the video I promised you where I would go over and discuss your position papers. And your position papers are the majority of your grade in the course. And so, I just want to start off um, by saying that I think these four position papers are going to be really important and really a really good assignment for you all to undertake because the goal for them is really to not only have you focus on a prescient topic related to the course, but also to really enhance and develop your writing skills, to focus on building up, defending a position that you are going to argue. Because for each of these papers, you're going to have to clearly stake out a particular position that you are either for or against. You should not sit on the fence. You need to choose a side. And I think this is important because learning to write clearly and defend an argument is one of the most important skills that I think you're going to need to develop while you're at Franklin and Marshall. And you'll probably have noticed that many of the assignments your professors give you have the same agenda. But an important element as well that I want to focus on is also the idea of when you defend your perspective, when you take a particular position, you also need to always consider the strongest counter argument that someone might make and figure out how to rebut it. Identify the best way to defeat your opponent's best claim that they could make to try to defeat your argument. So, what does that look like? So, an example would be for position paper 1, your prompt asks, should there be one universal definition of terrorism? So, again, with these, all of these are should questions. You choose one side, yes or no, and that's your position. So, let's say if your position is that there should be one universal definition of terrorism. You need to think about the strongest argument for why there shouldn't be a universal definition of terrorism, and then discuss the problems of this argument. So, thinking about how to lay out these papers and what this might look like in incorporating these counter arguments, I would definitely recommend a nice, succinct introduction to your clearly laying out which side you are on. And in your thesis, I think it always helps to lay out the 1, 2, probably max 3 arguments you're going to make to support your particular position. You want to always give your reader some foregrounding and some idea of what's going to come in your paper, what your major arguments are going to be. I really would recommend probably limiting it max 3, probably 2 main arguments to support your particular position, because these papers are only going to be between 3 and 4 pages double spaced. You have a limited amount of space to get your argument out there, and I also want you to have this counter argument. So I would definitely recommend starting out the introduction, your position, highlighting your main arguments, and then use the good majority of your paper to lay out your 1, 2, maybe 3 arguments supporting your position. Then lay out your counter argument. What do you think that strongest alternative argument is? And rebut it. Show why it's wrong and finish up with a conclusion. I think that's an effective way to structure these papers. And there are going to be 4 of them. You can see the topics here. They're also in the syllabus. And I know maybe your thought is 4 papers. That's so many papers. Well, here's some things to consider as well. Summer classes normally are 2.5 hours long in person. And I've made it to the longest. You're probably going to have to watch lecture videos, case studies. Combined is probably 40 to 45 minutes. I really want to give you time to also work and develop your ideas in these papers. Work on thinking in more in depth about some of these particular important issues related to terrorism. And so that's why you have 4 of them. And so the way it's also going to be structured is every single one is going to be due on a Sunday. And the topic related to each one is going to come on the preceding Monday. So the very first day of class, we're going to talk about on the 8th, we're going to be talking about definitions of terrorism and how to think about various definitions of terrorism. So that means that your paper is going to be due on June 14th, the Sunday following that. So every single one, we're going to cover the topic on Monday, and the paper will be due on that following Sunday. And this is to give you time as well I have office hours Monday and Thursday, give you time to talk to me about your ideas, think through that. I want to be available at the beginning of the week and towards the end if you're having questions, thoughts, concerned about it. So that's some logistical elements. You're also going to need to use 12-point font, 1-inch margins all the way around. You should have a title for your paper, and you should have a header, but only include your name and date. I don't want a paper that has your name, my name, the date, the class, your pet's name. I don't need any of that. It's 3 to 4 pages. That's a limited amount. Your header should only be your name and the date. Then also in terms of citing your work, this is important. You need to use MLA style to cite your work, and you need to use in-text citations, whether it's for direct quotes or paraphrasing. And for these, you need to have a minimum of 3 sources for your paper. But what's important to remember is at the end, you're going to need a reference page. This does not count as one of your pages. So if you write a 2-page paper and add a reference page, that does not count as a 3-page paper. Reference pages does not count in that 3 to 4 page space limit. So that's one thing to think about. I also have posted, I will post the grading criteria rubric on Canvas. So look over that to see how I go about evaluating your grade. And as I said, these are all going to be submitted through Turnitin on Canvas. Each one is due at 12 p.m. On the date listed, so it's always on a Sunday at 12 p.m. And here's another important thing that I put at the end. I really want to try as much as I can to help you all with the writing process. And if you're willing to start your paper early, think about it, get your ideas down, I will help you through the process, and we'll go over your paper as many times as I can. But for me to be able to read your paper and get it back to you with sufficient time to make edits, you need to send me a draft of your paper by the Thursday before it's due at 5 p.m. And I will be able to give you, and this will give me enough time to send you feedback and then you to try to potentially incorporate that feedback. So that's just an important thing to remember. It's Thursday, 5 p.m. You can email me a Google Doc, or you can send me a Google Doc. You can email me a Word doc attached. One important thing to remember, if you send me a Word document that is attached, I will send it back to you. You have to open the document. Do not do a Google preview. I've had too many instances where I put comment bubbles into a paper. Those don't show up on Google Preview, and nobody sees the changes that I have suggested or discussed. So make sure you open a Google Doc if it's in an attached, or a Word doc if it's in an attachment. That's an important thing to remember. And one other thing also that I want to emphasize is that I don't expect you to necessarily make all of my suggested changes. I do not proclaim myself to be the ultimate, have the ultimate ability to say what's right and what's wrong about everything. But I also think I can help you all in a lot of ways. And if you simply submit the exact same draft with not a single change that you sent me as the final draft, this will negatively affect your grade. I value your time significantly, and I hope that you value mine, because I want to put a lot of effort into helping you make this better, and then having you think about that, work to make your papers better. And if you don't do that, that's not doing either of us any good. So I don't want to end on that negative note. I'm excited to read your position papers. I think this will be an effective exercise and really good opportunity, especially to deal with some of these interesting topics related to terrorism. So again, getting this out there now. If you have any questions, please email me right away. I'm here to help. You can even start thinking about some of these questions now, even before the term starts. And then also, if you also have questions about particular resources to look into, you can contact me. I would also recommend contacting the government librarian, Tom Carroll. I'll adjust this instruction sheet and include his email to think about sources. These are things you want to use: reputable sources, journal articles, newspapers, reputable magazines, think tanks, books, things like that. Obviously, I know physical books is a limitation, so I don't expect you to access physical books based on the pandemic, so don't worry about that. But be looking for reputable sources when you're doing this. And myself and Tom Carroll will be good resources for that if you have particular questions. So again, email me with any questions. Really excited to read what you have to write, excited to get started with the course, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.